Now look at our components folder. This folder has been growing. Now we have a mixture of different types of reusable components. Some of those components are for building forms, some are for building lists, and so on. So now it's time to reorganize these components into different namespaces. So here I'm going to add a new folder called Forms. I'm going to move all the components for building forms inside this folder. But I'm going to move components one by one, and this is what I recommend you to do because moving files and folders around in VS Code is not very reliable. Sometimes VS Code updates the references, sometimes it doesn't. Why? I'm not sure. So we're going to move components one by one and make sure our app works. The first component I'm going to move is app form. Let's move it over here. VS Code open login screen, and as you can see, this file is in the edit mode because VS Code updated the reference to the app form component. So now it's inside the forms folder. Good. So save the changes. Now our app is still working. Beautiful. Let's move another component. So next I'm going to move app form field. Okay, in this case, VS Code didn't update the reference to this component. So we have to manually add that over here. Save. Let's look at our app. So this is the error you see all the time when you move files around. Undefined, unable to resolve module, app text input from app form field. So that means in this file, in app form field, we have a reference to app text input, and that is not updated. So let's go to app form field. So we have a reference to app text input. Now we have to go one level up because app form field is inside the forms folder, right? Save. Let's reload the app. This is another error you may see from time to time. Requiring unknown module 18. If you're sure the module exists, try restarting Metro. So we have to stop Expo and restart it. Okay, Metro is restarted, so let's reload the app. Okay, now we see the actual error message. Once again, we have a reference error. So unable to resolve module, error message in app form field. So in this file, we have a reference to error message, and now we need to update the reference. So here in appformfield.js, this is our reference. We need to go one level up. Save. Let's reload one more time. Okay, the error is gone. So to keep this from getting repetitive, I'm going to pause the recording and move a few other components inside the forms folder. You already know the technique. So if you're coding along with me, try moving these components and solve the errors on your own. So I've moved 4 components inside the forms folder. We have app form field, error message, and submit button. I chose not to move app button and app picker inside this folder because we might have a button without having a form. So I chose to keep these components where they are. But this is subjective. There is no right or wrong. If you prefer to move them in the forms folder, that's totally fine. Now let's take this to the next level. So in the forms folder, let's add an index file. So index.js. Now we're going to import all these components and re-export them. With this, we can easily import our form components in other components. You're going to see that in a second. So there are 2 ways to import and re-export a component. Here's one way. We can import a component like app form from the current folder and then export it in an object. So we export an object and add app form to that object. As another example, we can import app form field from the current folder and then add it to this object. So this is a 2-step process. There is another way. We can combine these 2 steps into a single step. So we type export. In braces, we type default as. Here we type the name of a component we want to export. Let's say app form. Then we type from, and here we specify the path. So app form. So here's the syntax. Now we can duplicate this to export app form field. From this file, one more time, I'm going to export error message and finally the submit button. Submit button. Okay, we're done. Now let's go to our login screen, the final step. So look, some of those import statements are not used. For example, formic is not used, it's grayed out. So let's delete it. Also, we don't need these 3 components. Let's delete this as well. Now, we can combine these 3 import statements into a single one, because here we're importing 3 form components. Now, all these components are in a single place. They're inside the forms folder, and we're exporting them from index.js. So here we type import from, we go up to components/forms. We're referencing a folder. Because there is an index.js in that folder, here we can import app form field, and submit button. Now we no longer need these 3 statements. That's better. Save. So our app is working. If you had difficulty applying these refactorings, you can use the completed source code for this section. So at the beginning of the course, I gave you all the source code for this course. Every section has a begin and end folders. So if you got stuck, don't worry, just use the completed source code and move to the next section.